I read The Blood Gift by N.E. Davenport. It is the conclusion after the blood trials. I am not fully aware because I'm really bad at sleuthing, but I believe there was some drama, and this was originally meant to be a trilogy and it got squished into 2 books. So if that is the case, it makes sense. If that's not the case, well, it's a good lie. We should go with that. I'm honestly hoping that this series gets picked up by an indie publisher or self-published or something, because I like this world and I want more to happen within this world, and she's set up a really good next step of this world. If you remember from the blood trials, this whole story focuses on Kenna, or Kenna, Ikenna. You can't really read book 2 without reading book 1. This is not standalones. These are a series of action. And that's really what this is. This feels more action than romance. There is romance, don't get me wrong, but they got together in book 1 and they're still together in book 2. Doesn't really feel like this will they, won't they. It's, am I gonna survive this fight with my paramour? So in terms of romance and in terms of their intimacy, it's very light. It's very well established that they're together. They have a relationship talk very early on, and then it just kind of pauses on romance and their relationship for most of the book. We get like chapter 3 and 4, and then not until the end. And it's because there's so much action and adventure. I get it. There's no room for romance. They're not even together for some of this. She's imprisoned in a different place than he is. They're not on the same continent. It's very complicated. Everything that I said about romance in the first book, same thing. Before we get like too deep into the nitty-gritty, read this book, read the conclusion. There's a lot of action, well-written action. I will give that to N.E. Davenport. She is a pro at giving you visceral action. And just like the previous book, no one is safe. If you made a bet about who was going to survive this book, you would probably be wrong. I'm not going to tell you how many important people die, but a bunch of people die. It's always sudden deaths. It's never, it just feels like it hits you out of the blue, and that's death. That's death and that's war, and so I get that feeling. I don't like that feeling. It's not personally my favorite feeling. It's not what I want. I don't want people to die. I want everyone to be happy and fucking at the end of a book. So that was sad. Her 19-year-old feelings definitely continues in this. She is just as arrogant, just as rash, just as headstrong. That serves her well in this wartime chaos. It's just not the most fun to read. Someone who is that easy to trigger is exhausting to read sometimes. If you need to take this book in chunks, I totally respect it. Because this book feels like 2 squished into 1, there are also moments that I feel like we're told instead of shown. Exposition vomited out instead of action we got to be a part of, or even discussion we got to be a part of. It wasn't the most fun to read at times. Full disclosure. 3 books. One of my most appreciative parts of Ikenna in this story is the fact that she is here for the right reasons. She is not looking to lead outside of these wartime tasks that she is the only one capable of doing. Because so much action is put in this book, I feel like the relationships themselves stayed stagnant. And I don't mean just Kenna and Darius Reed, her love interest, but also the friendships, the group dynamics. They didn't get to build as much. I don't feel like we even learned enough about the add-ons to their cohort that came out of the last book. That being said, this world is great. The commentary is real, and I want to read more of N.E. Davenport because it was so visceral and heartbreaking and exciting and tragic. There's a lot of talent that she has, and I want to see what she does when given the full breadth of opportunity to do so. The slowest of burns. All right. Chef's Kiss by TJ Alexander. Oh, so sweet, but the slowest of slow burns, y'all. I was just, waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, like 90%. If you're someone who doesn't feel like a burn is slow until you get, 75% of the way through the book, congratulations, read this book. It is for you. It's a contemporary queer romance, centers around Simone. It's the only point of view we get. Simone is a recipe developer and writer for a food magazine. Food magazine isn't doing well, so they have decided to embrace social media and make video content, much to Simone's dismay. She's very awkward, very isolated. She isolates herself. She's very introverted. And she meets the new kitchen manager, Ray. And I will spoil this for you because y'all should know. It's one of my favorite things about this. Ray is introduced as Rachel, as female, and comes out as non-binary. It's why they like Ray and not Rachel. So watching that, oh my gosh, I loved it. Simone is a bisexual woman. We watch her develop feelings for Ray, fight her feelings for Ray, befriend Ray, have a whole moment of panic when she learns Ray's gender, and then the drama also of these two in this workplace. This is a really good book about commentary regarding gender and gender inequality in the workplace, as well as being safe in your pronouns and in your world. A book full of commentary about being a queer human. Simone's roommate Luna is a trans woman, and one of my favorite conversations in this story is a flashback to them meeting, where Simone says something maybe odd and asks Luna a question, and Luna very clearly states that she appreciates that Simone wants to learn, but it's not her job to teach her, that the energy, emotional and otherwise, of teaching is exhausting and she's not compensated. And what they've agreed to is that Simone will cook for Luna when she asks for this emotional work from her. I appreciate that we get those moments of learning, and I fully champion the reciprocation of effort in the form of food. Now, that might not work for everyone. You might not appreciate that, but in this relationship between Luna and Simone, that is what they've agreed upon. It works for the story. In life, maybe not, but for this story, for this moment, it made for a very clear path to education and also respecting the boundaries of this human. I really liked that. Ray is a huge sunshiny cinnamon roll, and Simone is definitely the grump in this relationship. And that was so fun. It's very lightly spiced. Fucking slow burn. I'm not mad about it, but come on. Come on. It doesn't fade to black. This is very sweet. This is very easy. This is very fun. There's a lot of food talk. There's a lot of play. There's a lot of discussion on workplace and inclusion. And I don't need to talk about Ray's journey. She takes care of Ray, if that's a trope that you love, the taking care of when you're sick, but it's post-surgery. It's so sweet. Nice job, TJ Alexander. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Tastes like Shakkar. Shaker. I want to say Shaker, but it's not. If Shakespeare was an auntie, that is such a good one. I love Nisha Sharma. I love Dating Dr. Dill. Tastes Like Shaker is phenomenal. And Marriage of Masti comes out in a few days. Probably already happened by the time this video is going live. This is book 2. It is about Bobby and Bunty, 2 of the friends. So these 3 books are about three friends, 3 male friends, 3 female friends who come together. Bobby and Bunty have a bit of a misunderstanding at the beginning of this story. We get to see their meet cute, I really appreciate, as well as why they're so antagonistic toward one another. Bobby is asking for something from Bunty. Bunty puts his foot in it real bad, real hard, and then has to deal with the very sassy Bobby from then on out. Most of this book takes place during the wedding planning for Prem and Karina, the couple from Dating Dr. Dill. Nisha Sharma does not hold back with the spice. Seriously. Page 40, Bunty said something and I went, oh my gosh, are we gonna get some bondage? Yeah, she delivered. Bunty is all about that bondage life. Ooh, all about that bondage life. He introduces it really well. They have a conversation about consent and about safe words. They do the traffic light system. He explains what's going to happen. They talk about contraception. They use condoms. I am loving the use of condoms in books. I think that when we normalize condoms, especially in early parts of relationships or just in general, it allows readers to normalize condoms because they're very important. It's very important to use protection for both pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. Very, very important. This is an enemies to lovers story. They butt heads and eventually have to come to some sort of understanding, and that understanding involves the chemistry that they have exploding all over the place. There is drama in this story. Someone is trying to sabotage Prem and Karina's wedding. So not only do they have to plan this wedding together, but they have to save it together. And they get to know each other. They involve the aunties, who are so much fun. They're less involved in this book than they were in the first one, and that makes a lot of sense because these aunties are Karina's found family, and they've pseudo-adopted Bobby as one of Karina's best friends, but they are not as involved in Bobby's life as they were in Karina's. Bunty also has some family stuff that he's figuring out, including does he want to stay on the East Coast where his found family is or move to the West Coast where his actual family is. I'll let you guess where he decides to end up. It causes some problems between the two of them. I need to keep reiterating how well this spice is written. I feel like a broken record. I have some great notes, and something that Nisha Sharma said in this book, or Bobby said in this book, has to do with being just unapologetically yourself. As they're planning this wedding, the event coordinator at the space where Karina's wedding is going to happen, it feels like they're running up against someone who's being culturally insensitive. And Bobby says, these weddings are one of the few places where we can be unapologetically ourselves. We can wear our clothes, we can eat our food, we can have our customs, and no one is going to judge us. That is why these 3 5-day events that are weddings are so important to them, because far away from their place of origin as immigrants, that isn't where they live most of the time. They don't get to be unapologetically themselves. And that hit me. I've had conversations about footnotes or glossaries, especially when in romance novels, to make them more accessible to people who aren't from that culture. And y'all, it isn't Nisha Sharma's job to explain to me what Mendi is, or to explain where the Punjabi region is, or what all the foods are. That's not her job. Her job is to write this book authentically and tell this story beautifully. I can go look up what a lenga is. It's not that hard. Most of us have pocket computers or access to real computers and search engines. So while there were a lot of searches that needed to be done, well, I had to look up things like Sapno Kirani, his nickname for her, which I believe means Queen of My Dreams, or it just kept going to the song. Something cute. And yeah, I had to look that up, but did it detract from my experience? Does it make me a better human because I'm engaging with this culture and I know these things? Yeah, I loved it. And right now in this moment, I am counting down the days until this book comes out. Y'all should go buy this book because by the time you see this, it's already out and you can read all 3 books together. I'll give it to a YA novel. They can be really adorable sometimes. This is Exes and Foes by Amanda Woody. There are so many cute moments, even more than there are, oh my gosh, you're such a teenager moment. This book centers around Caleb and Emma, who are former best friends. They had a falling out about 4 years ago. They're now seniors in high school. They end up competing for the affection of the new girl at their school. Both of them meet Juliet. Caleb is smitten from the beginning. Emma notices and goes, well, I kind of like Juliet too. And they go into competition, which means they are around each other a lot for the first time in 4 years. And all of these unresolved feelings that they had for one another come back to the surface. It is very comical how they are thrown together, how they compete, how they banter, and how they get pulled back into old patterns of behavior. The inside jokes that come out of their mouth, the way that they used to touch and engage with each other. They didn't go away. They They show up and they both struggle with the newfound, old-found feelings. Juliet is so sweet. She's so kind, so quirky. We get to watch her journey as this new kid at the school, making friends, coming into her own. She has a history of a bad friend group, just an unfortunately unsupportive friend group from where she was before, and watching her blossom within these new friends that Caleb and Emma bring to her is just really sweet. She gets to be unapologetically herself amongst her peers for the first time. Caleb and Emma are both bisexual. Caleb is also demisexual. There's a lot of drama on the back end that plays into how they had this falling out many years ago. Emma is on the run. She is not living at home. She's living out of her car, because her mother has created such a toxic environment at home. Caleb deals with his own situation. His mother is incredibly sweet and supportive. She works as a bartender and he gets a lot of flack. People are just not kind to him because his mother is hot and a bartender and works nights. His learning comes in his relationship with his father, who has been absent and is more of a fair weather presence in his life. Caleb and Emma essentially can't help falling back into these patterns of caring, and the feelings that they had for each other 4 years ago, they didn't go anywhere. Very early in this competition for Juliet, both of their best friends make comments about how they are secretly in love with the other and how silly they find this competition for the new girl when they're really just obsessed with one another. There are definitely moments when they're very much teenagers and you just want to pull your hair out. And then there are moments of deep, flowery emotion, which are so adorable because as you get older, you don't talk like that. You don't expound poetically about your crush the way that you do in high school. So there were some really great moments to watch and really frustrating moments to watch. It is YA, there is no intimacy. They just make out a little bit. One thing that they do, oh God, do I want to ruin this for you? Just skip to the end if you don't. But once they're exploring a romantic relationship between the two of them, they have this moment where they shower together and then just lay in bed together. They don't have sex, they don't really fool around, but there's this moment of skin contact and how nice it is to just have your skin touch another human. And that's true. Sometimes the best part of intimacy is being in the naked cuddles with another human, feeling the physical connection that goes beyond sex into emotion. I loved that. It was so sweet, so much fun. Go read this book if you are a YA or you need a break from spice, because I just had such a squee time with it. I love the covers. They're pink and they make me so happy. Make me so happy. The Hunted Heir by Holly Renee is book 2. You have to read book 1. If you haven't read book 1, pause, or if you don't care about spoilers, keep going. It's fine by me, because it will not make sense otherwise. Just to recap, Verena is the heir to this kingdom that is in turmoil. Her father, the king, is abusive and power hungry. She had been living on the streets and gets swept into the rebellion and conscripted by the rebellion to join them. She hides her true identity and is trained by the heir to the rebellion leader, Shakkar. I know there's a pronunciation guide, but that's the best you're going to get from me on whether or not I say his name correctly. At the end of book 1, she is found out. Shakkar have sex for the first time, and then he throws her out of the Hidden Kingdom, which sounds really mean, except he throws her out instead of bringing her to his dad. So he actually did the thing that he believes is going to keep her safest, get her out of there. But it certainly wasn't a great moment. It was kind of a dick move. And he admits it. If you want to see some groveling, this is a book for you. There is some grade A groveling for his shenanigans in this story. The main plot is Verena is on the run and everybody's after her. Her dad is after her. He's announced to the kingdom that she's missing and that he wants her back and that there's a reward. The rebellion is after her because she knows things and they want to use her as a pawn in their Mishigas. Dacre is after her because he wants her safe and he wants to actually keep her away from both her abusive father and his own father, who is super power hungry. And he's realizing on his own, maybe I shouldn't blindly follow him. It definitely gives Reckless vibes, if you know what I mean. These books are also much smaller than the 2 books in that series. So if you're looking for something that's more adult, less complex, faster read, give these 2 a try, The Veiled Kingdom and The Hunted Heir. It is lightly spiced. There's less spice in this book than there was in The Veiled Kingdom, but the spice that we get is fun. Like in The Veiled Kingdom, Dacre is very conscious about verbal consent from Verena. He will not engage with her. He will not progress things until he gets verbal consent from her that this is what she wants, that she's okay with it, that she's open to it. Not a head nod, not an but actual verbal consent. I like that because sounds can be misinterpreted. Even a head nod, you're like, I want it. I like his double checking in his commitment to consent in this instance. I read this very quickly. Honestly, highlighted very little, but I did the same thing in Reckless. It feels like a book 2 that sets up book 3. Is it a bad book? No. There's action, there's adventure, there's intrigue, there are hurt feelings, there's making up. Did I mention the groveling? Because the groveling's great. And I'm excited for what's to come next in the final, I think it's final, book coming out in March. This book is simple. The magic system is simple. We don't even really get into the magic system in this one. Like I said, this really is a book that you have to read one after the other. But enjoy.